Very, very good. It seems like we managed to get through whatever it was that was causing a problem, and we should be coming back on live here again. Again, if it's Thursday, it's live here with one conversation at a time. My name is Rick Senninger. We did have just a quick interruption. I apologize for that. I hope it didn't cause anybody any great duress or anything. We are going live across on YouTube. So, having said all that, this is like I said, one of six. So let me kind of explain to you what's been going on. The This is 12 separate conversations we're going to have. On these different conversations, each of them has their own standalone. But you're going to notice that the overarch to them is that we are talking about life changes, and the things that go on within our lives. Why does we resist life? Going from the very, very beginning, we were talking about anxiety and fight and flight, that when anxiety goes up, your choices become much more limited, and fight, flight comes into play. When you're talking about different types of changes, why people fear them and have anxiety over them, what facilitates that anxiety. Then the next part we were talking about was what was going on with certain types of personalities, especially those who are extremely intelligent. Intelligent people have a more difficult times oftentimes because they feel the sense of responsibility and also being able to have to deal with changes that they cannot control. And it's through the lack of control that, quite frankly, where most of our anxiety comes from. If you think about it, where does anxiety come from? It comes from where it is where people, when you don't have control over things. And when you don't have control over things, then you feel very, very anxious about that. Because there's two types of change. There's a change that you facilitate, and there's the change that's facilitated for you or to you. So this evening we're going to be talking about that why so many people are feeling what was referred to as emotionally exhausted. And the world isn't just asking you to do more. The truth is the world is asking us to make changes every single day. It seems like it's just compounding on top of itself. It wasn't just a handful of years ago that we were dealing with COVID and all the dynamics of that. And now here we are, just a couple of years later. I mean, literally just a few years later. And now everybody's talking about AI and all the changes that's taking place. And then, of course, we're dealing with the changes of inflation and things have gone up, the cost of living and so on. Then all of those changes, family dynamics, those changes, everything seems to have changed, and it changes so rapidly that it's not giving us a chance to even adjust before there's yet a change again. And this is where we're talking about. So I'm sure that you have had or gone to bed exhausted, not because you've worked really, really hard or worked harder than anybody else that day. I'm sure you know the people that may have physically worked harder than you, but because you spent the entire day carrying someone else's emotional extras. You smiled when you didn't feel like smiling. You encouraged others while wondering who was going to encourage you. You solved everyone else's problems while quietly hoping someone would notice that you were struggling too. Today, I want to talk about emotional exhaustion. It's not depression, it's not weakness, it's not laziness, but it's something that millions of intelligent, caring people are experiencing every single day. Because we're oftentimes, or you're oftentimes, that person everybody else looks to, and no one thinks to ask you about how you are doing. So it's emotional exhaustion. It is not weakness, it's emotional overload, is what it really comes down to. Your nervous systems were never designed to process this much information. The responsibility, the uncertainty, the emotional input, it was never set up to do this. We were built to survive occasional stress, but not constant stresses. Every decision costs mental energy. That's something you really need to underline. Every decision costs mental energy. Emotional labor is invisible. People don't see it, especially when you're spending the time caring for others because they're concerned about their needs having been met. They're not seeing the anxiety, the stress, especially when you're doing it with a smile on your face. And most exhausted people aren't really physically tired. It's not because they're exhausted because they, ran 5 miles. They're mentally and emotionally depleted. When we were talking about this last week, we were talking about, I even gave an example. I said, I've come through the door before and I've said, I absolutely do not want to make another decision. I don't care what it is. I don't care what we watch on TV. I don't care about choosing anything to eat. I don't care about who's going to do what, who's fighting over what, who's disagreeing about. I don't care. I am completely and emotionally shot at that point. And I feel bad because I'm disconnecting from the very people that I love. But there becomes a point you just like, I can't do it. I just have to stop. So research is explaining to us the occupational psychology consistently shows that emotional labor, continually regulating our emotions while caring for other people, is associated with burnout, compassion, fatigue, and reduced well-being. In other words, we stop taking care of ourselves because we become such caregivers to so many others, especially when it comes to things like parents who are becoming parents to their parents. You're already parents to your children, and many times they're also having to become caregivers to their parents. And the whole thing is that this is just way, way more than what people were designed to do. So the wife who keeps everything together, the executive who can't afford to look uncertain at any point, because any reflection of uncertainty, all of a sudden the staff becomes feel anxious. The friend that everyone calls, but has no one to call. For many of us, I'm sure that we've experienced this before, especially those who are in a giving environment. Those people that are in the medical profession. I know my profession, working in the funeral industry as a certified grief counselor, as a family service counselor, as a funeral arranger, I was always, compelled to give my best. And if I was having a bad day, believe me, there was no one that was asking about how I was doing. And I'm not whining about that. It would have been inappropriate for them to ask how I was doing. But nonetheless, that emotional stress is something that we carry with us. And you can carry that responsibility sometimes even for years. Now, I want you to think about this. For years, people will carry this until, as I say, like one ordinary Tuesday, and your body just finally says, I can't keep pretending everything is okay. And it's just a meltdown, a collapse, whatever the case is. And the point is, it should not get to this point. People often confuse functioning. Here's the mask that we put on. People will confuse functioning with flourishing. Someone can succeed at work, raise children, pay bills, laugh with their friends, go out and have a good time, and still be emotionally exhausted. Performance often hides the actual pain because everything appears to be doing well. They seem to be doing great. They're fantastic at the barbecue. They're great at the PTA meeting. They did all these things, but what actually ended up happening is that they were just exhausted and were not going to let anybody see the anxiety and the frustration that they were in. So, what we were taught from the time that we were younger, most of us were taught how to learn, how to earn a living. But the thing is, and this is a big point, when I read this, I actually wrote it down. So I'm reading this because I want to make sure I get it right. Most of us were taught how to earn a living. Very few of us were taught how to process being human. We learn math, but not emotional resilience. We learn careers, but not grief. We learn achievement, but not recovery. We learn productivity, but rarely self-understanding. One of the greatest misunderstandings of adulthood is believing maturity automatically provides us wisdom. It does not. Experience creates opportunities, reflection creates wisdom. Experience creates opportunity, reflection creates wisdom. Neuroscience suggests that chronic stress narrows attention, increases emotional reactivity, and reduces cognitive flexibility. Reflection, emotional laboring, emotional labeling, restorative and supportive relationships help restore executive functioning and improve emotional regularity. Translation, you need to have a team of people around you to keep you up, especially if you're in a leadership role. I talk about this all the time. People that are at the top of their game understand that they need coaches. People at the top of their game understand they need a team of people. I cannot underline this enough. Tiger Woods has an entire team of people. He has physical therapists, he has hypnotherapists, he has people that design his clubs for him. They have people who turn around and handle his publicity for him. So does LeBron. So does, Taylor Swift. So does Miley Cyrus. So does Lady Gaga. They don't, they're not sitting there putting the wardrobes together by themselves. They have a team of professionals, and a part of that team, not just the marketing team, but a big part of that team is their emotional support team. Their coaches, their mental coaches, their life coaches, their nutritionists, the people around them who take care of them physically and emotionally because they know it's part of who they are. And to be able to perform at the level that they do with the pressure that they're under, they need all the support they can get, and they bring in the best of the best to do it. So understanding that and understanding that your support system is imperative to your success. Understanding too that the goal isn't becoming someone else. You're not going to become someone else through this. It's becoming more honest with yourself. That you're becoming honest with the person you are and the fact that you too have and understand your emotional patterns, recognize what drains you, stop confusing responsibility with self-sacrifice. Really stop that. I hear about it all the time. Everybody feels like they have to sacrifice for somebody else. You know, if you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to be taking care of other people for very long. And learning how to choose peace without guilt, hugely important. Life is going to throw us interruptions. I talk about this all the time. This is part of my pit tip method that I utilize with all of my clients. And I actually go out and speak on this. And I've got a master class that'll be coming out very shortly on exactly this system, the pit tip method. Practicing intuitive, inspirational, and intellectual thinking. The truth is we see all these things through these three lenses. It has to feel good, it has to make sense to us, and there has to be a benefit to us. It has to feel right, it has to make sense, and there's got to be a benefit to us. Intuitively, inspirationally, and within ourselves. And without all those things, you're not going to make a good decision. So it has to make sense. It has to be intellectual. It has to be inspiring. You have to see a benefit. It has to be intuitive. It has to feel good to you. If it's two out of three of those, it's not going to work. So using those things and then actually going through the process of making changes, recognizing the patterns and making changes. Because when we're practicing intellectual thinking, then it's going to transform us because our thoughts create our actions, which ultimately will create our life. And by making and having the best thoughts possible, taking into consideration our needs and balance to others who are also very happy to help, very happy to do. You can't be in the field that I'm in, and so many of my colleagues are in, being helpful to other folks and not we're givers. We're gonna give. That's who we are. So my point to you is I have met and have known through my 30 years, actually closer to 40, but we go 30 because we don't want to overstate anything, and I don't really want to give up my age, is that I met widows, physicians, police officers, executives. These are all clients I have in every one of these categories. Athletes, Parents, college students, I love my college students. They're the best because they actually are still wanting to learn. Uh, and that's what they all eventually tell me is, I don't think anyone really knows how tired I am. That's literally like a quote that comes out of everybody's mouth. I don't think anyone knows really how tired I am. Maybe you even said those words. I'm sure many of you have, or maybe you even thought them at some point. If that's you, I want you to understand and please take this to heart. You have needs as well. Those needs also need to be met. You will not be of service to anyone else when you're not at your best. When, as I stated earlier, when you're not at your best, you're going to be more fatigued. You're going to make decisions quicker. You're going to be more reactive, not responsive, because you're simply trying to get out of the duress yourself. And that is not going to necessarily be the best that you can be. And taking on the responsibility for everything else is not going, it's the fatigue on it is going to be amazing. It's going to wear you out. You might be able to pull it off for months. You may be able to pull it off for years. But the point is, you cannot pull it off forever. So, for over 30 years, I've worked with folks. If this has been of any help to you or someone you know, please have them give me a call. I will provide you a 30-minute consult, absolutely no charge. I would love to hear your story, know what's going on in your life. And if I'm not a good fit for you, then we will find the person who is. 30 years, I might know a person or two that could actually help you. Um, and I'd be more than happy to do that. I'm not about trying to get more clients. I'm trying to get the right help to the people who need it. So, again, my name is Rick. This is Tip Hypnosis. We're here every Thursday. I hope that this was a benefit to you, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you. Good night, all.